The Eagles exercise Jordan Davis's fifth-year option. You know he'll be a first-teamer on the depth chart. Who else is with him on that defensive depth chart? I will discuss that next with Rich Hofmann on the PHLY Eagles Show. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the PHLY Eagles Show. I'm Zack Baun here with Rich Hofmann, Julia Hoff producing us, and we have a few dozen mice as a live studio audience today as we are in studio here in Studio B discussing the Eagles' defensive depth chart, a defensive depth chart that you know will include Jordan Davis. Now, we knew that was going to be the case before, but Jordan Davis is in the news today because the Eagles exercised his fifth-year option. We will discuss that and the entire depth chart around him. But first, Rich, I haven't seen you in some time, man. You were traveling. Welcome back. Good to have you back. And as nice as it is to be in studio with you, what felt best was waking up. Well, I was already up this morning, but opening up my inbox this morning and seeing your newsletter arriving. I missed it. So it's great to have you back.
Man, I missed that. Thank you, Zach, first off. And I missed you guys too. It's funny. I was in Europe for a wedding. I guess I can say the country. I don't know why I'm being coy about that.
You're being like me here. Yeah.
I was in Spain for a wedding, and following along with the draft coverage, when it's kind of in the middle of the night there was pretty interesting. I did not stay up for the whole first round, but I was a little groggy at 8 a.m., I believe, on Friday morning, and I was like, oh, I should see who the Eagles picked. They either traded out of the first round, and to my surprise, they took the linebacker, Jihaad Campbell. What a different way to experience the draft. I mean, I missed being up with the sickos because I did the show with you guys last year.
Yes.
Those late night shows where Howie was trading back and back into the second and third rounds. Anyway, it was a different way to experience the draft, but I had fun in Spain, and I am happy to be back now.
If you missed any of our 16 hours of live coverage, you can find that on YouTube. You can find many videos on demand from Fran Duffy and Bo Wolf. And Bo, we can't wait to have you back when the time is right here. And then also make sure you're subscribed on allphly.com. Fran Duffy has a piece up today on the Eagles' undrafted rookies. And those undrafted rookies are not included in the depth chart review we'll discuss today because they'll officially sign their contracts later this week. The Eagles' rookie minicamp will be Friday and Saturday this week. And so you can read all about that on allphly.com and Rich's newsletter. But the way we started the show today, at the news at the top, if you will, was Jordan Davis. And we, to kind of take the viewers, listeners behind the scenes, we originally planned on doing the offense today and the defense on Friday. But when the news came out today, we said, all right, we're going to switch it up.
Change it up.
It's a vehicle to discuss Jordan Davis. So Jordan Davis, who I'm curious your thoughts on this decision. It wasn't a no-brainer. That's why it kind of came down to the wire here. The deadline's tomorrow. He's entering year 4 here. He's been good. He's been productive. But he hasn't been necessarily what the Eagles might have thought when they drafted him 14th overall. He played 37% of the defensive snaps last year, has not played over 50% of the snaps in a season. I know the Eagles are especially optimistic about him. They think he's going to grow into more of a player, but we've heard that before. And so he enters year 4 here, and by doing this, the Eagles have him under contract in 2026 for $12.9 million. I'll give my thoughts on it, but I'm curious, were you surprised by it? What did you think of the Eagles exercising that 5th-year option?
I was a little bit surprised by it, just considering what we have seen the rest of this offseason in terms of, the whole Dallas Goedert situation and not wanting to spend money, and Howie talking about how there are going to be some expensive contracts in the next few years because the Eagles have drafted some very good players over the past few years that are about to get second contracts. I think their bet here, Zach, is that they believe Jordan Davis is going to take a step forward this year, right? I think that's the only way you can look at it. And there is some, I'm not sure I agree with that, but there is some logic to it, right? Isn't it generally considered defensive tackle a position where players don't always hit right away, right? I know this is year 4, so this is maybe not the same type of rope that you would give him in years 1 and 2 and even 2 and 3. But it does seem like they believe he has more in him. I will give him credit. He made some big plays in the playoffs. I think like most championship teams, I was feeling pretty good about Jordan Davis in late January and early February. I would say, I know this is just one play, but the sack he had against Washington in the NFC Championship game, that was a big play, man. So, obviously he still is this very talented guy. He is excellent at stuffing the run. But to get to my general point, he doesn't play a ton of snaps, man.
Yeah.
And I don't think what he has shown so far does not scream a $12.9 million player in a few years. But it seems like the Eagles are banking on him taking a step forward with a little more opportunity, a little more experience under his belt. And we'll see if they're right.
Yeah, I think you put it well there in that he's been productive, especially in those snaps, but that is a good sum of money, a decent sum of money for anybody, but especially for somebody who is playing 37% of the snaps. And if he doesn't have kind of that role affecting the quarterback on a consistent basis on third downs, it's probably not. You can find a player with 70% of the value at probably 30% of the cost, right? If I can frame it like that. But this is the thing: if he does take on a bigger role, more workload, as I expect him to do, and I think you lose Milton Williams, all those snaps aren't going to Moro Ojomo, right? All those snaps aren't going to Ty Robinson. Jordan Davis, I'm expecting we'll see closer to 50% and maybe more of that this year. And I think what will keep the Eagles up at night, this is always kind of the way I frame it, is not if they exercise this option and Jordan Davis doesn't quite meet it. What would keep the Eagles up at night is if they don't exercise the option. Jordan Davis has a standout season, and then he hits the open market next year, and he's a $20 million a year player, because that's what it would be for a defense. Look, Milton Williams just got $25 million a year. He's a different type of player, but I go back to something you heard when the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis, and it's the absolute truth. There are only so many people on this earth who are that big and that athletic. And he's also been fairly durable as well. So the conditioning is something that they talk about behind the scenes. They want to see it improve, but I'm not surprised that they did this. I did think the best course of action was to give him a contract extension, not necessarily pick up that 5th year. I kept saying maybe a 3-year, $35 million deal with $20 million guaranteed, and then you don't necessarily have that. It brings down that number in 2026. Maybe they still go in that direction, but that's not the. That's I don't fault them for exercising that 5th year option.
So what I am worried about, and look, I think Howie Roseman has proven to be one of the best executives in sports, not just the NFL. I am a little worried that, because I think this criticism will be leveled at them. Are they just trying to justify the initial move, right?
Yeah.
Trading multiple picks. What was it? 4th round pick and a couple 5th round picks to move up to initially select Jordan Davis in the 1st round of the NFL draft. I wonder a little bit if they're trying to justify that.
We'll see. That's a good conversation to be had throughout this summer. If Jordan Davis wanted a good financial credit union, by the way, for that $12.9 million coming to his bank in 2026, the place to go is Truemark Financial Credit Union. They are a presenting sponsor for the show. We're fortunate that they're presenting sponsor for the show. I pass by their headquarters often in Fort Washington. I'm sorry that it took me 10 minutes to mention them here, but A, better late than never, and B, I need to continue proving why Bo is the best host in the city, because he's able to get to that within the first 60 seconds as opposed to 600 seconds into the show. How
are those headquarters, by the way?
How are they're
good looking building?
Yeah, very nice. You get right off of the Turnpike in 309. As you get that Fort Washington exit. I assume this is their headquarters. I know they're headquartered in Fort Washington. I see on the right-hand side this big TrueMark Financial Credit building. It's beautiful. So yeah, make sure. But the great thing about TrueMark is you don't just have to go to Fort Washington. They're all throughout the Philly area. This is a Philly area financial credit union. So anytime I'm driving in the city, in the suburbs, I see a TrueMark. So I appreciate TrueMark for that.
So you independently know that their headquarters are in Fort Washington, but you don't know that the building that you see is their headquarters?
Well, I know from our ad reads over the past year that they're because because one of the things it says is headquartered in Fort Washington, where Julia goes to high school, or I'm sorry, well, not where she goes. Where
Julia's in high school?
Or Julia went to high school.
Julia, get the class.
Yeah. Julia,
you've been cutting a lot recently, huh?
She keeps young. What can I say, right? So I imagine that is their headquarters because that'd be a really big just financial credit union. But that'd be good. It's a great location, by the way. You got a Wawa right down the street. Anyways, let's roll on to the defensive depth chart here. We'll start with the defensive tackles because we've been talking about them throughout the show, throughout the first 10 minutes before we talked about TrueMark Financial Credit Union. And that is the top of the depth chart. I'm fairly confident we know what it's going to be. So if we want to flash that on the screen with the defensive tackles, Jordan Davis is going to be in the middle in odd man fronts, and he'll be on the field regardless. You have Jalen Carter and you have Moro Ojomo. Okay. But beyond them here, it becomes a little bit more of a question. Here you go. Thank you, Julia. So the reserves we're talking about Ty Robinson, their 4th round pick, Thomas Booker, who was promising last year in a reserve nose tackle role. He could take on a bigger role. Byron Young, who the Eagles acquired and kept him on the roster, was on IR for most of the year. A former, I believe, 3rd round pick with the Raiders. Then Gabe Hall. I want to make sure, in case Bo's watching, Gabe Hall, an undrafted rookie last year who developed behind the scenes. Let's start at the top because the Eagles lost Milton Williams, like we said. We're expecting Moro Ojomo to be the starter. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Yeah. So you got Moro, you got Jordan Davis, you got Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is, from my view, ready to be in that Defensive Player of the Year conversation. You're talking about the next step for him. It's elite. He showed it last year, and now he should be in that tier of like top defensive players in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think the key thing when I look at the depth chart there, that was a position that we thought could have been addressed at the top of the draft, and really wasn't. They went with Jihaad Campbell and Andrew Mukuba. Is that how you say the name?
Yes.
By the way.
He prefers Drew from what I understand.
Call me Drew. Okay, that's fine. I like that.
Yeah.
Drew Mukuba. Okay. But they did not address defensive tackle until the 4th round with Ty Robinson. So I think one of the key things there, because we just talked about, Jordan Davis, hopefully he gets the snap count up to around 50%. He's going to need to, because there's not as much depth last year, right? They had both Carter and Davis, but they also had Milton and Ojomo behind them. So I do think Jalen Carter being able to play as many snaps as he showed last year is critical, right? Because they don't have as much depth as they had at that spot last year, Zach.
No, and it depends too on Ty Robinson. When you're drafting a 24-year-old in the 4th round, what you're hoping for is this guy's a rotational player, and I do think he's not going to be someone who's inactive. He's someone who's going to be playing, who's going to be part of that rotation. And to me, they're not thin there if Ty Robinson's the player who I think he can be, which is a high floor type of player. The big question there is Moro Ojomo. And I know there might be a school of thought Jordan Davis is the big question. Can Jordan Davis play more? I've seen Jordan Davis's his high watermark, and I think he can hit that a little bit more frequently. The question with Moro is that throughout the playoffs, he was starting to impede on Milton Williams' playing time. It wasn't so blatant. It wasn't like Kenny Gainwell with Miles Sanders 2 years ago, or 3 years ago rather, in the postseason run. But you could see the confidence that they have in Moro. He's going to be someone who's a key piece to this defense. And I think the success of that defensive tackle group, a lot of it's going to depend is Is there a next step to his game? What's 2025 look like for Moro Ojomo?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, Jalen Carter playing 79%
Yeah.
of the snaps is just, it's so critical because, as we saw in the Super Bowl, he is the guy that gets doubled, right? And he is the guy who makes everyone else's life easier. And that's the hope that Ojomo has shown enough, I think, that he can play off Jalen Carter. And I feel confident that there is at least a mini leap that he can make this year.
There's a chapter in a book coming out in September on Jalen Carter's playing time. You can see that wherever books are sold. It's called Leap Year. So as far as down the depth chart there, Thomas Booker, someone who you can pay attention to. But I really think the key is going to be the top four. What role does Ty Robinson have? How does Moro Ojomo take that step this year? Now let's look at the players on the edges. Okay, so this is a group where if you say where can the Eagles get some work or have some work to do, have some questions, I think edge rusher is a key spot to look. And as we look at this edge rusher group, you have Nolan Smith, and I put Jalyx Hunt as a starter when I sent this over to Julia. Great job by Julia getting these up. I put him as the starter over Bryce Huff, so we can have that conversation. Then Azeez Ojoulari, Bryce Huff, Josh Uche as reserves, Antoine Powell-Ryland, their 6th-round pick. Patrick Johnson, O'Shane Mathis, and KJ Henry fill out the depth on the roster. So first off, big picture, what do you think of this edge rushing group?
Not as much proven talent because there's not the Jalen Carter level player there, right?
Yeah.
And look, Nolan Smith, who's going to be dealing with an injury for most of this offseason, I would say, Zach. But he is your standout guy there. Jalyx Hunt, I think when you guys were talking about what position do the Eagles need to address before the draft, like where are they weakest? Jalyx Hunt, I felt better about him as a player than a lot of the guys you're talking about, but the position is so critical, and really he has only shown basically a quarter of a year. He started to get more snaps at the end of the year. I like Jalyx Hunt, but I don't know what he's going to look like as an every down player. Now, I think I'm happy you're on the show, and I'm happy that Bo is with the family right now because I want to talk about a little positionless football right now.
Oh, I love this. Okay.
Because are we going to see?
I'm feeling good now.
Are we going to see our guy Jihaad Campbell there?
Well, I think so. And if for those who watched the show yesterday, you saw Fran say that the Eagles are going to start Jihaad Campbell off ball and go from there. And I do expect during OTAs, it's essentially a passing camp, right? And so it behooves them to play Jihaad Campbell off ball. You're not actually rushing the quarterback during OTAs. To me, the big question here isn't what you're doing first and second down. It's where is he on third down. Okay, if you're rushing the quarterback on third down, that says a lot to me. If you're off ball on third down, then that speaks to me that you're an off ball linebacker. So I'm real curious to see what they do on those third downs. That to me is particularly critical. And I've been informed by my wonderful colleagues to say multi-positional as opposed to positionless.
Oh,
what's your view on that semantical change? Is semantical a word?
I don't like it.
Semantics change or semantic? Is like, am I able to say semantical? Is there a way to make it an adjective?
To be honest with you, even though I've been a writer for a long time, I don't know if you can use that as an adjective.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what's that?
Oh,
well, if AI says it, I'm good, right?
Man, Bo absolutely hates this show right now.
Seriously.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Bo's throwing tomatoes at the,
This is like the worst 4-minute segment ever for him.
So.
No, I say stick with positionless.
Okay.
That's your thing. Go for it.
I appreciate it. And I can give you the origin from the Eric Spoelstra Miami Heat.
Come on.
But
Shane Battier.
You've all heard that shtick already. So anyways, Nolan Smith, clear top of the depth chart guy, came on last year. Really think he showed a lot.
Yep.
But obviously that was in really as your second and third edge rusher, not as your primary guy. The Eagles lost Josh Sweat this spot. They lost Brandon Graham at this spot. Major questions. Vic Fangio showed he doesn't need to go deep here. With Jalyx Hunt, there's a lot of questions about, like, can he step into a major role? The Eagles are really optimistic about him. Showed signs last year, has comes through in the playoffs multiple times. There's a lot of expectations there. I put him over Bryce Huff because Bryce Huff did not show me anything last year. Right? Like Bryce Huff, for $17 million a year, Bryce Huff, that was problematic. And I don't know yet what Bryce Huff's role is going to be on the team. I want to continue this conversation because edge rusher is a key piece of this depth chart. But before we do, let's take a quick break because the edge rusher conversation could go a little long, and I want to make sure that these wonderful people hear, or you hear from some of the wonderful people who support our show. Let me tell you about HelloFresh, okay? Because there are times when I come home from work and I'm always out at a work event and I don't have, I don't have a lot of food in front of me here, and I need to figure out what's for dinner. And I'm really upset about how I went into that first ad break, and I'm kind of debating, all right, what do I do coming in? So all these things are on my mind, and you know what shouldn't be on my mind? All the ingredients that I need for dinner. And that's where HelloFresh comes in. Because if you're tired of figuring out what's for dinner night after night, especially on those busy weekdays, get dinner done the easy way thanks to HelloFresh. Their lineup of prep and bake meals come together with minimal mess and only 5 minutes of prep. So your oven does most of the work, not you. HelloFresh's 15-minute meals are done in just 3 simple steps so you can eat better this year without all the hassle, okay? I like, as I said, when I come home from work and I need to put a meal together, I have a lot of things on my mind. HelloFresh saves me time. It has easy-to-use recipes, good ingredients. It allows me to cook differently and cook efficiently and enjoyable meals. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/Eagles10FM. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscriptions only, or new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/Eagles10FM. Oh, and I should also tell you, they're America's #1 meal kit.
Well, good. Now that we know that, let's talk about our friends at Ashley Furniture. Everyone, it is on, and you can shop the Memorial Day sale at Ashley and save $100 off every $1,000 that you spend, plus get amazing savings on outdoor furniture. If you want to furnish that patio, start grilling in the backyard, it's going to be about that time of year, Zach. And that's not all. You can get 60 months special financing and have your furniture delivered locally for free. Plus, with your qualifying purchase, get a free gift. Save on top brand mattresses and get free local delivery, setup, and removal. Cannot beat that free delivery at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information. And financing with approved credit, minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details.
So let's get back to the edge rushers here. We can get the super chats a little bit later on. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, putting these super chats in. I do want to hear more about Spain. But look, I mean, when you're in the middle of talking about edge rushers, you can't interrupt that, right? I mean, this is exciting conversation here. And your assessment, it's hard to say at this point, but are you expecting Bryce Huff to be a part of the team this year? How would you navigate that situation?
I don't know, man. I think just Vic Fangio spoke with this playing time and making him inactive, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was a big deal.
Inactive in the Super Bowl of all games.
I know. So to me, I actually think the most underrated signing that the Eagles made this offseason is Azeez Ojoulari.
Yes.
I feel good about him at least playing a role, right? And the Eagles for a long time have been a team that it's the old Jim Schwartz thing, right?
Yep.
Fastballs, right?
Yep.
Get guys, rotate the pass rushers, don't tire any of them out. I think you do need depth at that position. I feel pretty good about him playing at least a role on this group. And I know that's somebody you thought that the Eagles would sign before free agency. It was a name you thought at least that they'd be interested in. You did have it in your predictions, I remember.
Yes. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, man.
I feel it feels abnormal getting like nice plugs on the show, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, so Azeez Ojoulari's I like his game a lot, and I think that he can frankly push for meaningful playing time for the Eagles. I like the profile a little bit more actually than Bryce Huff a year ago when the Eagles gave Bryce Huff $17 million. Bryce Huff was coming off a better year. So you come off a double-digit sack season, that certainly helps. But the athletic traits for Azeez Ojoulari jumped out when he was coming out. I'm expecting him to be the third edge rusher here, but I would like to see him get more work. Josh Uche is kind of the wild card. He's been a double-digit sack producer in the NFL.
Just once.
Yeah, and these past 2-3 years have not necessarily been fruitful for him. But he is the wild card in that group. You heard Fran talking about Antoine Powell-Ryland yesterday. And Antoine Powell-Ryland, prolific production.
Great production.
At Virginia Tech.
I think it was 25 and a half sacks in 24 games. That's hard to beat.
Hard to beat. And it's not like he's small. He doesn't have explosive athletic traits, but he could push to have like a designated pass rusher role. That's why, if I had to guess, I still think the Eagles are going to try to find some type of post-June 1st trade for Bryce Huff. But at this point, I just think the Eagles have more intriguing options. I know publicly they'll say that they haven't closed the book on them. This is one closed the book on him. But they showed you through their actions. You put it well. You're inactive for the Super Bowl. That speaks to me right there. And so the big question with this group is, what's the next step for Nolan Smith? What's the next step for Jalyx Hunt? As you asked, does Jihaad Campbell mix in? I'm expecting Jihaad Campbell to mix in on some third downs. And then can Azeez Ojoulari be that, I don't want to say what Zack Baun was last year, but take that 1-year deal and really parlay it into something bigger. Candidly, I'm surprised the Eagles didn't do more in the draft at this spot unless you view Jihaad Campbell as that player.
You mentioned the trade with Bryce Huff. I want to ask about another trade because you have mentioned a bunch that they have all of these picks next year, right? And you expect that the Eagles are going to be they're going to be aggressive to try and get a veteran at a spot and use some of those mid-round picks in trying to acquire that player. Where do you think the position that they might target would be?
Great question. I mean, tight end, and Jamie and I, depending on the rookie camp, it might be you and Jamie. I'm breaking news to you here, by the way. But I don't know what your schedule is Friday, but there's a chance.
I'm playing. I'm in rookie camp. What do you mean?
But yeah, so the tight end depth chart, if Dallas Goedert's not there, is a concern, and so that stands out. But I think that edge rusher, I would always pay attention to edge rusher, and especially if Owa from the Ravens is in fact available, I can see the Eagles trying to get him. That he's the profile player that they should look at. But yeah, I think edge rusher and tight end are the two spots I'm watching.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So let's get the linebacker here because this is interesting. When you see this, I didn't know where to put Nakobe Dean. I'm not expecting Nakobe Dean back by week 1. Nakobe, if you're watching this right now, first off, thanks for watching. And second, prove me wrong if that's the case. But for the projected starters, I put Zack Baun and Jihaad Campbell. For the reserves, Jeremiah Trotter, Smael Mondon Jr., Ben Van Sumeren, Dallas Gant. There's also there's going to be some undrafted players you can read about on Fran's list on allphly.com. So my question here, few of them. First off, your view of what will happen with Nakobe Dean. Am I right putting Jihaad Campbell with the first team? And what do you make of your fellow prep alum, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. on this list?
So I think Nakobe in the injured category, I mean, first off, it's correct. He is injured, right? I think being patient with him is important, right? That was a pretty gnarly knee injury. Yep. He's a guy who's been injured before. I expect that we will see him at some point during the season, but to expect him right away, I'm not expecting that. Right. And if he does get back faster, like you said, that would be awesome. And I love Nakobe. I was really bummed that he got hurt earlier in the playoffs. I mean, I was kind of bummed that the Eagles did not bring back Oren Burks for that small price in free agency. Yeah. Now I feel a little bit better about it because they have Jihaad Campbell here. So
they got Smael Mondon is the Oren Burks replacement.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We'll get to that in a bit, but yeah.
Why? Are you going to have a good relationship with him?
Oh, I hope so. No, I just think the playing I hope I have a good relationship with all 90 guys on this roster.
But you and Oren, I mean, you were simpatico. Like you guys.
Oren, hey, if you're looking for someone to drive down to Florida with, well, I think that was the question.
Come on.
Oren Burks, I mean, I'm sorry if I don't pick the traditional options. You have me on the show here because I have these relationships on the team. Oren Burks, nice guy, well-read, Vanderbilt University, always good having conversations with him. Saw him at the car wash, a lot of, so shout out to Oren Burks.
A lot of pressure, Smael.
Yes, a lot of pressure, Smael. But you know what? You have a name like Smael, that puts you up. You know how he got his name, by the way?
No.
So his father was Ismail, and when he immigrated to the United States, I think if I have the story correct, that they misspelled the name, and so went from Ismail to Smael.
Love it.
Yeah, but Smael's a great
name.
Better than Frown, right?
I'm not gonna laugh at that. Yeah.
Bill would be proud of you. So let me ask you this: Zack Baun, how does he follow up year one?
I think well. Obviously, you're a little worried because he's an older player.
Yeah.
He's not an old player at the position. He just figured out what position he should be playing at 28 years old. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be really good. And I was a little curious, but before listening to you guys on the pod when I was in Spain, I was thinking like, well,
what a flex that is, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah. When I was in Spain and I did not have access to your pod right away because I was asleep, I did wonder. Yeah, like isn't the point of Zack Baun to go light at the other linebacker position, right? And not put too many resources because he and Vic Fangio will make it work. I mean, I think what Vic Fangio could do with Zack Baun, and if they do start Jihaad Campbell at off-ball linebacker, I mean, think of all the fun stuff that Vic did with those overhang looks, and you kind of never knew where the pressure was coming. And Zack Baun, sometimes he was rushing the passer, sometimes he was dropping back in the coverage. I just feel like Vic Fangio is going to be a kid in a candy store, right? Like he's just going to be drawing up all these funky sim pressure looks. It'll be a lot of fun. So I think Zack Baun is still going to be very good next year. Like am I a little worried what he looks like at the end of his contract? Yeah, sure. Just because of the age, but I think he follows it up with, if not like a transformational season, because Zach, he was one of the very few best linebackers in the sport last year.
Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
I don't see a major drop off from Zack Baun.
Yeah, no, I think that as long as he stays healthy, there's another step to his game here, right? Because like you said, it was, and he's referenced this. That was his first year playing off-ball linebacker. I think Jihaad Campbell's the starter, and I think Jihaad Campbell's an impact player. But I'm in the camp that I'm still expecting Jihaad Campbell to see more and more work on the edge as the year goes on, and especially on third downs. I don't think Howie Roseman brought that up unless that was something that they were going to do. I don't think Howie Roseman mentioned the Penn State linebackers like Micah Parsons, like Abdul Carter, who switched from off ball to edge.
By the way, gave Penn State a little too much credit with the Micah Parsons. Didn't the Micah Parsons thing happen in the pros?
Yeah, no, he was talking about that template of player, right? Not that Penn State did it. He said, and so I think the fact that he referenced that, because he's pretty smooth this way, Howie. I don't know. He'll probably appreciate that I called him smooth. That he didn't mention them by name, so it's not like he's making the Micah Parsons comp. But by doing it the way he did, it was I think that was intentional. And so I know this is like a big debate on Eagles Twitter right now. I think that's what Elliot calls it, Eagles Twitter. And so so I think Jihaad Campbell, like, I'm not labeling him one or the other, but I don't think he's exclusively an off-ball linebacker. I think he's going to get more and more work on the edge, and I'm fascinated to see what this looks like when Nakobe Dean gets back. But Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I'm expecting Trot Jr. and Smael Mondon to be the two depth players in this group. And then Ben Van Sumeren, I'm actually expecting to see him more at fullback than at linebacker.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, again, like crediting Penn State, like James Franklin almost cost the Eagles a pick last year for tampering for no reason, just because he was not smooth in front of a mic.
No.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I think I agree with that. So you mentioned Trot, who went to my high school along with Kyle McCord. Now we got two guys on the team. It feels like this is not a huge sign of confidence in him. I understand that Campbell, they just felt that the value was too good, right? They were trying to trade up to get him anyway. They were confident in the medical and the opportunity to get a player that talented at pick 31, as it turns out, but towards the very end of the first round was too much. But he didn't play over Oren Burks in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like that was the right move because Oren Burks, your guy, was very rock solid during that playoff run. But do you think I'm reading too much into that?
Well, it depends what the expectations were for Trot. If you thought Trot was going to be a starter this year, then you're not reading too much into it. I don't think it was, but I don't think Trotter had the standing on the team where you're not going to draft over him, right? And I agree, Jihaad Campbell's value was too much to pass up, but I don't think they went into that draft saying they need to get an off-ball linebacker in the first round or first 3 rounds. I think that I actually know going into the week going into the month, let's say coming out of the combine, they weren't expecting Jihaad Campbell to be there in their range. And I think as the draft got closer and they were going through scenarios and some of the medical red flags were coming up with Jihaad Campbell, that's where they started to do a little more work on him or started to do a little more work on the possibility that he could slip there. I just think so to go to the positionless conversation that we've had for years between Bo and me and Sheil is that just put Jihaad Campbell on the field and where you need him to play that specific role. If you need him to play a role on that down, he'll do it. And I think the great thing about positionless or multi-positional, however you want to frame it, is that they are adaptable, right? And it's like if you go back to those Miami Heat teams, the whole thing was guard guard 1 through 5, right? You want guys who can guard 1 through 5.
Did you see the Heat play the other night? They did not guard 1 through 5.
No, they did not. There's some playoff matchups this year where there's just such a disparity between the teams that Thunder Grizzly game that time was brutal.
It's funny because I'd say 5 of the series are awesome, but the other 3 are just disasters.
So from football terms, Campbell can guard 1 through 5, and that's rare to have. And so I am expecting him to play more on the edge, but I think Trot Jr.
If that happens, right? That opens up a spot for another linebacker,
and that's Nakobe Dean eventually.
Yeah, you're right.
But Trot Jr. And pay attention, please pay attention. I'm telling you right now, on April 30th at 2:37 p.m. Eastern Time, pay attention to Smael Mondon Jr. because the Eagles were surprised that he was on the board when he was, and I think Smael can make some people smile when he's out there this year. So
great athlete.
Yes, really good athlete. I mean, look, the
issue is that at that position, if you don't actually read the play well, then being a great athlete doesn't matter quite as much.
Look, if you're on the field for Kirby Smart, that jumps out to me. Yeah. And there were people who had him as the second best linebacker in this draft. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I think after taking Campbell, it's not as if the Eagles were like they need to take a linebacker in the 5th round, right? It was just he stood out. He stood out absolutely on their board.
What's the max number of Georgia players that the Eagles can get on the field defensively this year?
At one time 11, but
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, all right. Are there actually 11? Are there actually 11 guys?
No. Oh, okay. I thought you meant like hypothetically. Sorry.
There's position list, but it stops at 11 though. Don't.
The answer then would be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Azeez Ojoulari.
You can get Smael on there.
Smael Mondon and Lewis Cine and Keele Ringo. So 8.
Wow.
8. Yes. Yeah.
Just do it for the screenshot tweet. Fran would love that.
Oh man.
Just Fran narrating all the Georgia guys on the field. Yeah.
That'd be a great recruiting pitch down there for Glenn Schumann and co. My jokes are not landing today, even though I
didn't mind that. That last one was.
I gotta say this. Last night was the first night since July 19th when I had since July 19th when I had nothing on my to-do list.
Nice.
Last night, it was like Emily was like, "Do you have to go work?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "You don't have like writing or transcribing?" I'm like, "No. We watched the show together." It was like, I went to bed at 10:30. I mean, Jim's, I was waiting for Jim Salisbury was writing over at the Phillies. I posted that this morning, but I was like, I looked around and I'm like, Like, what do I do? You know, kids just went to sleep. I have a few books that I want to crack.
You're wandering around the neighborhood aimlessly.
Yeah, I mean,
it's late April.
Yeah,
and all of the key off-season moves have been made.
7:30, kids went to sleep. Usually, and look, I'm not trying to be Johnny Tryhard here. There have been times when like I haven't worked at night this year, but there's always been something where it's like, all right, I have to do this. I have to write this story. I was doing my show prep this morning. But yeah, it was, I honestly felt like I had a blank check of time. It was incredible.
Let me ask, is there a physical to-do list?
Like going to the gym, you mean? Oh, do you mean like an actual, like writing to-do list?
Are you writing this down either on your phone?
Yeah. I have a checklist of things I need to accomplish each day. Yeah.
Is it physical or is it on your phone?
On my phone, typically. Yeah.
I'd love like a...
No. Julia's seen me hold a pen before. I try not to write manually. I think as much I try to type more than I can write.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good night.
But if you want to know some things that are on my to-do list, just wait until you hear from our first sponsor. Golden Nugget Jeweler, you are on my to-do list, okay? That has been made abundantly clear to me during the past few days here. For the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jeweler has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even Baltimore and New York City have come to Golden Nugget Jeweler to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. But I want to tell you, it's not just engagement ring or wedding band. I already did that. I thought I was past that. No, apparently they have watches and jewelry and diamond, sparkling diamond necklaces and bracelets and earrings and so much more that you can also get at Golden Nugget Jeweler. You can receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring and ring purchase. Golden Nugget Jewelers has been the family-owned and operated business since 1987. It's right there on 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly. You deserve an expert and the best price. I'm hoping for the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com to learn more.
And ZB, now let's talk about our friends headquartered in Fort Washington, although I'm not sure exactly where. But that is TrueMark Financial Credit Union, our presenting sponsor. And folks, it is Financial Literacy Month. And I've got something that's going to help you off the field, and that is teaching your kids how to handle their money. If you are a TrueMark Financial member, you've got a fantastic opportunity to help your kids and teens learn to earn, save, and spend wisely with a free Greenlight account. Now, Greenlight isn't just any app. It is a game changer for your kids. Whether they're setting savings goals, learning how to track their spending, or even getting their allowance, it is all right there for them at their fingertips. And get this, each kid gets their own debit card. That's cool, right? They can make purchases, they learn how to budget, and build real-world money skills while you stay in control from your phone. You get peace of mind, and they get the chance to make smart, responsible choices with their money. So, if you're looking to teach your kids some financial plays this Financial Literacy Month, I cannot recommend the Greenlight app enough. It's like training for life's biggest game. So guys, head on over to truemark.com/greenlight to get all of the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set up your kids for financial success.
Let's check in on some of these super chats. My eyes are not very good, so I'm going to pull that up here on my computer. Or here you go. Thank you, Julia. Zach, name 3 guards that you try to emulate when you take the court. All right, Rich is going to like this question.
Great question, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go Eric Snow would be the first one.
Oh, my God. Setting the bar low.
There's always room for Eric Snow. Man, Eric Snow was my favorite player. I was a huge Eric Snow guy. I had, one of my good friends in high school, his dad was involved in the Sixers and got me an Eric Snow autograph, and it was like the coolest thing in the world. So Eric Snow, because he's smart, plays defense, passes the ball, and you're not expecting him to shoot. And so that's probably similar to me. So I would go Eric Snow. I would go with probably Probably Eric Snow, and Eric Snow.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that, because if you would have said any other guard, I would have said you're not being consistent there, man.
Yeah. No, Mario Chalmers. How about that? But he shoots a little bit more. But you try to.
Does the rest of your team yell at you like the Heat used to yell?
You know,
at
but
Mario
I'm
Chalmers?
good at taking that, right? Because it's not for lighter burden, that's for broader shoulders. So a combination of those two, and then Muggsy Bogues,
Sure,
because of the height. How about that? Here, give me one for you, because you can play, you can shoot. I've seen you.
One guy that I try to emulate, I would say like a less offensively talented James Harden. I just don't play defense. You know?
Yeah, defense.
I do one Euro step, and I'm like James Harden. I'm left-handed too. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
And then you change teams every few years.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
From Chase Daniel Plainview. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you're going this direction. First off, we appreciate your contribution as always, Chase. Pete Hegseth has been criticized for involving his wife in his work. How can you be professional while making sure your spouse knows they are loved? How can you be professional while making sure your spouse is loved? I think you show with your actions every day, and I would say who you are some of the time is who you are all of the time. So if you love your wife and you treat her well, and you treat her with respect, that's the best you could do. I hope that appropriately answers that question. But I appreciate it. Let me quick change the subject here before we get to the secondary. Best thing you ate in Spain? Because I hear Madrid. I know Madrid's a good food city.
Good food city.
Great paella.
Just a lot of like. We went a couple times to just these tapas restaurants, and they put a bunch of fish in front of you. They put a bunch of different meat dishes in front of you, and I can't even tell you what I ate, Zach, because they're just these little small dishes that you just keep ordering and ordering. There was like an octopus that I ate that was actually pretty good. Yeah, that I was like surprised how much I liked. But yeah, definitely a great food city, I would say.
Not a fan of the siestas. I got to say that.
Oh, you don't like how little they work over there?
Not a fan of just like interrupting your day to go take a nap. Like, I mean, seems so inefficient, right? I'm looking for the.
You would just be disgusted driving down the street, seeing all the people drinking beers on the. In their suits, just taking 3 hours off from work.
I remember when I was in high school, or no college. When I was in college, Bennigan's. Do you remember Bennigan's? They had a 30-minute or less food. Oh, I'm sorry, 30-minute or less lunch special. Like if they didn't get your food out to you and you in 30 minutes, it was free. And so at Eagles training camp, sometimes I was interning for the Inquirer back then, and I'm driving up on 309. There's a Bennigan's up there on the way to Lehigh, and I was
so much stuff on 309.
Yeah, and
Trumark, Bennigan's.
Yeah, you can knock that like to me. Let's get in and out of lunch in 30 minutes. You got the long lunch. You're drinking the wine at the table, and then you're taking a nap, and then what? It's like 4:00. You just burned 3 hours of your day, man. It doesn't strike me as efficient, but hey, people love Spain. So
when I was flying back home, Zach, I think you'll probably blame this on the siestas, but literally we got to the terminal in the airport, and I realized like, oh yeah, like the lights aren't on in this terminal right now. Like the lights weren't on in the bathrooms. I tried to buy water at the terminal for the plane, and they were like, the card readers do not work, so you cannot buy this. So I was thinking, that's weird. Like, what's going on over here? The whole country lost power.
The whole country?
Yes.
Jeez.
It's because of those siestas too, man.
Seriously.
Now I was lucky. I got out of there, but
yeah.
I guess the airport had some generators that
thank goodness
that got us out of there. But yeah, when I got home, I saw that there was chaos. There was traffic in the streets. People were stranded on trains. People were going to the ATM to try and get cash. So, I mean, I think a lot of people were taking siestas that day.
Yeah, they should do that during the siestas. They won't even notice.
Polar Jam mentioned the ham as well. Jamón Ibérico.
Ah, yes.
It's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
had a bunch of that.
Hopefully the NFL plays in Madrid at some point, and I get over there. So anyways, I don't have a natural transition here. If you're taking a nap, don't take a nap on Keele Ringo, because let's get to the Eagles cornerbacks here. And I wrote on allphly.com the other day that I don't think anyone helped himself more in the draft on the Eagles than Keele Ringo. I didn't think the Eagles were going to take a corner high, but there was that possibility of a Maxwell Harrison or something like that. I think Keele Ringo is solidified here as a top 3 corner. So among the starters, I have Quinyon Mitchell, Keele Ringo, Cooper DeJean, and I personally think DeJean could play on the outside in, quote unquote base, but they're going to be in nickel or dime most of the time anyways, and I still think DeJean's on the inside there. And then reserves, Adoree Jackson, Eli Ricks, Mac McWilliams, a Fran Duffy favorite, Parry Nickerson, Tariq Castro Fields, and A.J. Woods. So we'll start here with Quinyon Mitchell, Keele Ringo, and Cooper DeJean. What do you think of that as your top 3 corners?
Feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree with your take that Keele Ringo is probably the biggest winner. Maybe Ojomo is the other one from the draft weekend, because they really did not bring in anybody. Mac McWilliams, by the way, that's a great name.
Yeah.
To go Mac McWilliams and Smael back to back. I think were they back to back picks? I don't know if they're back to back picks, but
right around each other
on the same day in the draft, just really upgrading.
I believe they were. I think it was Mac and Smael. I think you're right
in the name department. But yeah, Keele Ringo feels like this is his job, right? Because Adoree Jackson, that feels like the type of veteran you bring in and say to Keele Ringo, yeah, you have some competition here, but we want you to win this job, right? You would need to mess up to win this job.
You put it a much more succinct way than I could. That's the perfect way to put it. Is that Adoree Jackson? It gives you a veteran in the room that if you need someone to step in, he can. But I think Keele, who by the way is younger than Quinyon Mitchell, he's also younger than Jalyx Hunt, first round pick. Mm-hmm. So like this is, I mean, I know it's a it's like a running bit on this show, but think about this: if Keele Ringo was coming out in this draft, who do you think would be more appealing, Keele Ringo or Jalyx Hunt? It wouldn't surprise me if it was Keele Ringo, who started for 2 years at Georgia, goes into the draft, has developed. I know people talk about the tight hips. I think Keele's been tough downfield, frankly. During the practices that I've watched and the times that he's played, I would like to see him be more aggressive on the ball. That's something to watch out for. But this is going to be a big spring and summer for Keele Ringo. Changed his jersey number, by the way. He's now number 7. So Ringo 7, if you're looking for a jersey.
I feel like he'll be a little faster up with that 7.
You think so?
That extra number was weighing him down.
Yeah, like Kenny Pickett fast, right? I think of Michael Vick, though, of course. Or Sam Bradford, either one. But Keele Ringo. And then where do you stand on Cooper DeJean? Would you just keep him in the slot? Do you think he should get a look on the outside?
I think you need to have a better succession plan for the slot. We know that he's going to play pretty much every snap. Mm-hmm. I think he frankly deserves a chance to play on the outside at some point. I wonder, do you think that's something that he's going to push for at some point?
Well, yes. I mean,
because of the pay, right?
Exactly. So look at the Houston Texans this offseason, okay? The Houston Texans signed Derek Stingley to the highest contract for a corner on the outside. They signed Jalen Petrie to the highest corner or the highest contract in the slot when they signed him. And you're looking at a delta of like $10-15 million a year. So it behooves Cooper DeJean and those that represent him to want him to play on the outside. But I think the comparison to use is Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey plays on the outside in like base downs, but then moves inside. I think Cooper can move around, and you'll see that from him. Yeah.
So that's my general take on it, is that until you find another slot player, I would rather have Keele Ringo on the outside and Cooper inside. I feel like that mix works best for this team. Here's a question, because we haven't gotten to the safeties yet. Yep. But do you think Mukuba could figure in at slot?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I can see Mukuba.
Let's say like Sidney Brown is actually good.
Yeah, if Sidney Brown starts, I can see Mukuba playing in the slot in dime situations, right? Because you look at him from a size perspective, certainly makes sense there. I think Mac McWilliams is going to factor into it, but Mukuba, who's going to start off with the safeties, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets in those dime packages.
Yeah, I mean, Mac McWilliams, a little bit of an Avante replacement, I think, as well. So they have some dart throws there in different ways at the spot. But I would certainly start Cooper at slot, because they were the best defense in the league the second he moved there.
Yeah, it's an interesting position, probably not one that Eagles fans are totally familiar with, to go with the to have like confidence in a young group of corners going into the season. I really don't have a lot of question marks. I know some fans might. I mean, obviously Mitchell and DeJean, I'm expecting them to be better. I'm bullish on Ringo. I think Adoree Jackson's good insurance. If Mac McWilliams is what Fran says he is, and I haven't done a lot of Mac McWilliams work other than watching some highlights, then I think he's your backup slot, and you can figure it out from there. That gives you 4 players right there. And I know they lost Isaiah Rodgers, they lost Darius Slay, but you add McWilliams, you add Jackson, and then you have guys developing. I really like that.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, one of the things that I have learned over the past few years and listening to you guys is that defense year over year does not always
there's variance,
right?
Yep.
There's variance. Sometimes you're the second best defense in the league, and then you're in the bottom third the next year. Where do you think this team will stack up? Now, people are just going to be guessing, right? You know, people did not know that the Eagles were going to be this dominant of a defense last year because they frankly went from, at the end of the 2023 season, which is the tape that I am banking on from Keele Ringo to translate a year and a half later to this team, to one of the best defenses in the league last year. Where do you think they will slot in after making all of the moves that they made in the offseason heading into this year?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, I hate to elude the question or evade the question. I need to see them out there.
Yeah.
Like, I do have some questions about this group. I think they have a high baseline with Vic Fangio and with the secondary that they have.
I think it's a high baseline too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to be the first ranked defense again, but considering that they basically brought back the most important people at every level of their defense, I'm feeling pretty good about that with Vic, who, by the way, Vic Fangio throughout his career, usually it's the second year when the defense gets any better. That would be hard to pull off this year, but you know, I think there's something to be said for knowing his scheme, knowing how he operates, and all of those things.
Yeah, I think the edge rushers are going to be key there, but I think an expectation of a top 10 defense is absolutely fair.
Yep,
absolutely. Let's get the safeties before we get to overtime. So with at safety, a good place to start is Reed Blankenship, but then the question is the spot that was occupied by C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I put Drew Mukuba based on what they spent in the draft with him. He's going to be in competition. So this is a competition. I could just have a slash here, which is what the Eagles would do, which is Mukuba or Sidney Brown. And then behind him, Tristan McCollum, Lewis Cine, Andre Sam. You know, see undrafted rookies there. We don't need to kind of get into the Reed Blankenship discussion. I like Reed Blankenship more as your second safety as opposed to your first. But the big question here is who wins the job? And I'm asking you right now on April 30th at 2:57, Drew Mukuba or Sidney Brown?
I think Mukuba's going to win the job. Just because, I don't know, there's something about Sidney Brown I just don't trust. I mean, that guy, watching him play on special teams this year, I mean, he was like a stunt man. He was throwing his body all over the place. So that was enjoyable to watch, but playing safety is a different thing, right? And I know now he's a year off the injury, so he should be better this season. But spending a second round pick on Drew Mukuba, even if it was at the very end of the second round, and especially because the Eagles, they've reached compared to the consensus board, right? I think most people had him as a third round pick, and they said, we like this guy enough that we think everybody else is wrong. We actually think more highly of him.
5th round pick. I was way off.
Yeah. So I would give him the nod, but I'll ask you, do you think this is just a 50-50 competition where nobody really starts ahead of each other at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think day one it's going to be Sidney Brown out there because he's returning. I think too much was read into the fact that Sidney Brown didn't get a lot of playing time last year, and Tristan McCollum played over him. I think a big reason for that is Sidney Brown missed training camp, and so Vic Fangio really didn't get a good look at him there. But now he's healthy during the offseason. That's going to factor into it. But the Eagles took Drew Mukuba for a reason, and Drew Mukuba is a good fit in this defense. So I'm expecting Sidney Brown early on, but I'm expecting Mukuba to ultimately win the job. And I had Mukuba as my guy. Now I thought he was going to be, I would have taken Kevin Winston over Drew Mukuba because I think Kevin Winston has more upside. But I think Drew Mukuba is a real good fit in this defense, and it's going to be a good player in the NFL. Before we finish this conversation and before we get to overtime, I just want to tell everyone real quick that if you want to see some of us who know how to golf, I don't know how to golf, but if you want to see some of us who know how to golf, and if you want to golf with us, make sure you go to the PHLY Liberty Open, second annual Liberty Open on Saturday, June 14th at Valley Brook Country Club, 2 p.m. shotgun start. I wish I knew what that meant, but that sounds like a very cool thing.
Exactly. It means that everybody tees off on their specific hole at the same time.
Okay, yeah. Got to be careful there, what I'm reading. So make sure you check that out.
One of the golfers gets killed.
Bo Wolf is a fantastic golfer. You can golf with Bo Wolf. The PHLY Liberty Open, and find out what I think and what Rich thinks about the rest of the safeties and more in overtime. Welcome back from overtime here, where we are going to have more
shotgun start to a shotgun finish there.
We're going to have more success in overtime than the Milwaukee Bucks had in their overtime.
Yeah, they were bad.
I was thinking about that.
Wasn't Doc Rivers' fault, though.
I was thinking, no, it never is. When I saw that last night, I'm like, I'm going to incorporate that into overtime, try to find an overtime every night, something that I can try to put my own spin on the hosting duties until the best host in the city returns. So as we round out the safeties here, it's a huge year for Sydney Brown. And even though Drew Mukuba was the second round pick, I mean, if you just look at it, he was the 64th overall pick, right? Sydney Brown, that was a year when there were fewer picks overall because of some suspensions or some penalties. He was the 66th overall pick. So he's only
basically the same spot, yeah.
Exactly. Now, he's also year 3, so it's almost a sunk cost at this point. But I always liked Sydney Brown's game. I think Sydney Brown, though, if there's any time for him to show it, it's going to be this year, and he has the opportunity. I didn't think the Eagles were going to take a safety in the second round. I thought Sydney Brown was going to have a little bit more of a clearer path to that job, but he can still win it, absolutely.
It also, if I were him, it would worry me a little bit, too, that it wasn't a Jihaad Campbell situation, right? Where the best player and the consensus top talent just continued to drop for the reason the Campbell did, which was the injury. No, the Eagles went out of their way to take Drew Mukuba. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, some of that just boils down to the safety position. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder there, right? Yep. Because you don't always know what everybody's position or what everybody's responsibility is on every single play. Howie is on record talking about that. But yeah, a second round pick wouldn't feel great if I was Sydney Brown that the Eagles went in that direction. Yeah,
and then as far as the other reserves, I think Eagles fans are eager to see Lewis Cine because of the draft pedigree, former 32nd overall pick. Dealt with injury. Baun was on a practice squad in Buffalo last year. The Eagles bring him in to the 53-man roster, and they carried him on the 53 for a reason in the playoffs. That was how they can get him onto the team. And so he's still young. He still has opportunity in front of him here. I mean, Lewis Cine's 25 years old, right? He turns 26 in October. And so curious to see him. Tristan McCollum back for another year. He's pushing for a roster spot. He's not guaranteed to make the team. Andre Sam was someone behind the scenes who I think impressed the Eagles last year, was elevated a few times there. So watch out for Andre Sam. This is always a position they can add. If you're looking for a veteran, Justin Simmons continues to linger on the open market. The Eagles can see what they have here during these next few weeks. OTAs are next month, so they'll be on the grass, as the coaches like to say, and they'll have a better evaluation of the safeties then.
Well, Justin Simmons, I think he would definitely like to be part of the mix in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's openly campaigning for it. I mean, I would probably do the same thing, right? I mean, you float that out there, you get your name in there. You get a chance to go on Kay Adams' show talking about it. It's a good marketing tool on his end.
Loves to play for Vic Fangio too. Can't argue with that.
Any super chats we have here? Frank Barber asking about. Okay,
I'll take this one.
Yeah,
ZB ? More like Zaddy B with that 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah. I'm sorry you noticed, Frank, because. I was honestly, I was planning on shaving this morning. Emily said, "Why don't you keep it?" And
that's good, man.
And I'm like, it's unprofessional, and but no, so if the chat likes it, I'll keep it rolling here. It's a 2 p.m. shadow, but yeah, I did not shave this morning. I typically shave before every show. But look, my off season started yesterday. Okay, I mean, like that's so the draft was the weekend. After the draft is when my off season begins. Monday, I went to Washington to report, and then I got home at 11:30. I wrote a story for allphly.com. I woke up yesterday morning. It was the first day of my off season, and so I have a whole to-do list for the next few weeks of things that I want to accomplish. I need to go back and watch some recent shows to find some things I want to improve on. I have some reading I want to do. I have a few features that are in the chamber, but honestly, shaving was not on the agenda this morning. It actually
not on the to-do list.
It actually was, and then Emily's like, "Well, you don't need to shave." So I'm like, "All right." So if the chat likes it, I'll also say this is the first time I'm wearing shorts in the office outside of training camp, right? Ooh. So I did that because we were in Studio B.
Not just Fran showing a little thigh.
Yeah. So I knew it was waist up, but I'm trying to be a little more of the people here, of the people on the show. So before we wrap up here, because people are tuning in for overtime, a few more questions about Spain. Okay. First off, your in-flight entertainment. Were you reading? Were you watching something? What is it? 8 hours over there? 8 hours back or 9 hours back?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So on the way over, I watched a couple movies that I had not seen. I watched
Which movie?
The new Saturday Night Live movie.
Oh, is that good?
Yeah, it's okay. Like chaotic, right? It's basically it takes place in the 90 minutes before the opening episode of SNL, and there's a Lorne Michaels character, there's Chevy Chase and the whole cast as well, the people behind the scenes. Pretty interesting. So that was
fast paced.
Yeah, so that was a good one, and I also just watched The Dark Knight for the 100th time probably because I saw that they have a bunch of franchises on there. So I watched that. And then on the way home.
You like the bank scene at the beginning?
Of course.
Yes.
Come on. Do you?
Oh, yeah. Great. Great bank scene. Great bank robbery scene.
Do you watch it for the bank or the Joker,
No, it's just so well executed, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
So that's what I watched on the way there. And then on the way home, I was sitting next to my girlfriend for that leg. Yeah. No problem. And we watched Only Murders in the Building. The fourth season.
Like together?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Just had it on my phone. Kind of put it.
You put one AirPod in yours and one AirPod. Really?
Yeah. And had it.
Is that tough? Get enough audio that way?
Yeah, we got enough audio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It was a little bit hard, but we had fun watching. It's
and you go phone. You go phone instead of laptop.
Yeah, I went phone for that one. Got on the Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I probably would have gone laptop, bigger screen. Did you bring your laptop with you?
I did.
Yeah.
No, we just went phone. Yeah, it's a good point. Okay. Yeah, no, we put it
Only
up.
Murders in the Building. That's the Steve Martin, Martin
Short, who's hilarious, and Selena Gomez. Okay. This season was Okay. This was the fourth season. The first season and the third season were my favorites, but I enjoy it. It's even though it's like a whodunit show, ostensibly it's mostly a comedy. I would say, which you would like. You're a fan.
Yeah, I'll put that on the list. I started watching Friends and Neighbors. Is that what it's called on Apple TV? Your Friends and Neighbors, Our Friends and Neighbors. Yeah, with John Hamm, and Olivia Munn, among others. And so good. It's pretty entertaining. We're 4 episodes in. Enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Curious to see where it goes.
So, interesting factoid, not really that interesting, but my POV life asks, who did I sit by on the way over? And it was funny. There were, my girlfriend was sitting in the row in front of me, and we tried to sit together, and we asked the 2 sets of people who were in those rows, and they both said no. And the funny part was the 2 guys who were sitting next to me actually went to the wedding that we were going to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were great guys.
Yeah. So when you sit next,
I was not liking them on the way over, but they actually were great guys. So
at what point did you realize they were in the wedding? Or they were going to the wedding the whole way through?
When we were there, when we were at
so you're like, hey, I remember you weren't giving up your seat?
The welcome dinner later that night.
Okay.
No, we didn't do that. We didn't do that.
Okay. So, when my wife and I travel, we go aisle.
See, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't watch the same things. So she watches.
Can't put the laptop in the middle of the aisle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be something.
Yeah. So she's more of like she watches stuff on the plane, and I'd like to do work on the plane typically. So like I'll save writing to do, but for an international flight, you do have to watch movies or TV shows.
Sure.
So good call there. Okay. I think we gave you 10 minutes of free material here. Tomorrow, virtual with I should say remote with Fran. We are going to be going over undrafted rookies. Okay, so Fran, if you're watching now, we're remote because of you. You don't need to come into the studio. Okay, but eager. Look, I say this in earnest. I'm not just pumping up my colleague. Fran's breakdown on allphly.com right now of the undrafted rookies is the best breakdown you will find anywhere. Absolutely anywhere you'll find it. And he watched the film on them. He discusses like the trait that makes them exciting to the team. And then he even goes far as to kind of rank like the ones most likely to make the roster. So we'll discuss that. We'll also break down the types of undrafted rookies who make the Eagles. And so that will be that'll be tomorrow's show.
Who have been the best undrafted free agents since you've covered the team?
Good question. So, I mean, Reed Blankenship's going into, year 4 here. He's been a starter for the past 2 seasons, going into year 3 as a starter. So that jumps out as one, bless you. Corey Clement,
that's the other
led
one
the Eagles in receiving yards in the Super Bowl. So obviously that's one you have to look at. So those would be
the big 2. Those were the ones I thought.
Yeah, those are the big 2 that would jump to my mind as well. And then TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards was a really productive linebacker.
Big 3
for the Eagles. So those 3. Then Friday's the Eagles rookies minicamp. I will be at NovaCare, and I will either join Jamie or Rich will join Jamie, depending on the timing of it. I'm gonna nail that down tomorrow, and then next week we have some fun things ahead of us. And I also want to just put on everyone's schedule so the schedule release Wednesday, May 14th. The schedule's coming out. We have a special schedule release show. And we'll have some fun activities in that show for everyone to participate in. So make sure you're watching that. Until then, well, really until tomorrow, thank you, Rich. It's great to have you back stateside. Thank you, Julia, as always, who is really the key to this whole show. And thank you to everyone watching at home or in the car or while you're exercising. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, Bo will say, as always, we love you. I will say, we'll be better tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
We all silly like the mayor.